My name's Nella. Nice to meet you and thanks for coming. I am going to speak today about nurse-led survivorship clinics and a new resource to support the development and implementation of a sustainable nurse-led survivorship clinic and focusing on some of the things to think about as you're getting started before you start implementation. I won't be able to cover everything, and so I've kind of focused on the non-clinical things aspects, which I'm hoping will be a bit more applicable to everybody. So to set the scene, a little bit of background about traditional models of survivorship care, as well as sort of the newer nurse-led models. So traditional survivorship and follow-up care models have predominantly been medically led and hospital-based. They typically had a strong focus on detecting recurrence or new cancers and lack emphasis on the broader survivorship needs of patients. To better meet the needs of cancer survivors and also the increasing demands for survivorship care as the number of cancer survivors increases over time, other models of survivorship and follow-up care have emerged, such as shared care, GP-led care, and nurse-led models. So I'll focus on the nurse-led stuff today. Nurse-led survivorship models have been trialled and proven feasible, acceptable, and effective, with evidence showing that they deliver outcomes comparable to medically led care with potential economic benefits, improved resource efficiency, and better care coordination. These models are delivered by specialist cancer nurses who bring a holistic, person-centred approach to care. Nurses are well positioned to manage treatment toxicities, psychosocial distress, and support behaviour change and self-management in the survivorship phase. Nurse-led models can be safely delivered in person, by phone, or via telehealth, making them accessible and a scalable solution to meet the growing demands of survivorship care. Setting up a nurse-led survivorship clinic requires project management, leadership, and clinical skills. The ACSC have developed a resource implementing a nurse-led survivorship clinic, a guideline document, to support health professionals and services setting up a new clinic or looking to improve an existing service. The resource itself was developed in response to the growing number of nurse-led survivorship clinics being established and people reaching out to the ACSC for support and advice. Once we started searching and mapping the literature and guidelines and tools available, we quickly discovered that there was no single practical guide to support this work. And so this was the beginning of a 2-year national project where we worked closely with advanced practice nurses, medical oncologists, service managers and researchers, writing, consulting, piloting and refining the content of this resource so that it met real-world service needs, was practical and user-friendly. So the guideline brings together tools, resources and frameworks, and also vignettes from nurses who have established clinics, highlighting their first-hand experience. The guideline is generic, so it can be tailored to meet the needs of any health service, and the format was informed by the Australian Primary Healthcare Nurses Association, or APNA, and they have a nurse-led clinic building blocks document, which we used to sort of arrange the content and format. The guideline has been formally endorsed by CNSA as well, and it can be downloaded on the ACSC and CNSA websites. And for the non-nurses, CNSA is Cancer Nurses Society of Australia. Since its publication, we've also developed a supporting resource, which is a 1-page mind map summarising the key elements for quick reference, and this can be downloaded on our website too. So the resource is actually divided into 4 main sections: introduction and overview, preparation and setup, delivering the clinic, governance, evaluation and reporting. And all of these sections have got a survivorship lens on it. So some of the information that you've already heard this morning in Project 101 is in the guideline, and I'll talk to a little bit more, but with a survivorship focus. The guideline is intentionally designed to be non-linear. You don't have to follow it from start to finish, and you can work on sections concurrently or based around your local priorities or the resources that you have. Throughout, it reinforces the key message that success relies on a team approach, and you can't do this alone. And as I can't cover everything today, I'll focus on some of those important considerations in the planning stage and when you're getting started, which and some of it Kate did speak to this morning, but we'll go in a bit more depth about getting the right stakeholders on board, staff involved and training and supporting staff, as well as evaluation and reporting to be able to measure the outcomes of your initiative. So in the preparation and initial setup part of the guideline, it outlines all the things to consider before launching the clinic, breaking each element down into clear actionable steps. Laying this groundwork is important to ensure that the clinic is well set up and that the systems and staff are well prepared prior to implementation. As I said, I won't go into the sort of clinic design and systems and logistics as they're quite specific to your service and organisation, and so they're best worked through with your team and the clinicians or admin teams that you're working with, specific to your clinical service. But if you do want to go into those aspects in more detail, go have a look at the guideline, and it'll step through all of those for you and help act as a bit of a checklist of the different things to consider. So right at the beginning, it's really important that you do some background work to shape and strengthen your idea. Many of you will already have an idea of what you want to do or already have a bit of a project proposal together, but this often needs further refining, and it's important to be really clear on your goal and ensure that it aligns with your organisational priorities, and also this will help you to stay focused and secure buy-in from your key stakeholders as it progresses. So to develop your idea further, it can be good to ask yourself and really kind of unpack, why is this change needed? What do you hope to achieve the change? Who will benefit and how? And think about the patients and your consumers or carers, the service, the hospital, and also yourself as a team member or a clinician, or whatever your role is. Also think about the risks of not changing, such as patients missing out on comprehensive care according to their needs, increased unplanned admissions, or ineffective use of time, space, and systems. Consider your organisation and the current landscape. Does your idea align with the strategic goals of your service, health organisation, and relevant cancer plan? Is this the right time, or are there other priorities that might delay progress? Use all of this to build your case for change using clear, unbiased evidence to support it. And you can also look internally to see if a similar problem has been successfully tackled elsewhere, search the literature, or look externally for potential approaches and learnings too. Oh, got a bit excited there. Once you've developed your idea and built a strong case for change, you'll need to get the input and support from a range of stakeholders. And these early conversations are key. And I think that that's really came through in the little breakout groups that we had as well. Share your idea, listen carefully to the feedback, and be willing to adjust your approach where needed, as this will help you to refine further and anticipate any concerns and uncover important perspectives that maybe you hadn't thought about. When you are looking to identify your stakeholders or do some stakeholder mapping, if you haven't done this before, it can be helpful to think about who will be impacted by the clinic, who do you need to endorse it or help identify funding avenues, who brings important expertise or insights, and also who might be threatened or against the idea. And this will help you to develop your sort of key stakeholders and start that stakeholder mapping. Think beyond your immediate team too. Consider patients and carers, other clinicians involved, administrators, allied health leadership, and executives. Strategically think about what role they will have in implementation and if they're likely to support, stay neutral, or potentially block progress. And use this information to plan how you're going to communicate with them and engage with them throughout your project. Consumers are a key stakeholder group to consider in the planning stage too. Their perspectives are essential for developing a service that meets their needs and is also a requirement of the National Quality and Healthcare Standards. Consumers can be engaged in a number of ways, and in an ideal world, full co-design is the gold standard, but it might not always be feasible due to limited resources or time or access to consumers. However, considering other levels of engagement is also helpful as they can still add real value to your project. When considering your consumer engagement and partnering with consumers, focus on what's meaningful and practical. Be specific, selective and inclusive in your approach, and leverage consumer networks. Your organisation might have a consumer group. The quality team might have consumers that they can put you in touch with. Your clinic's patient base can be a source of consumers, local health networks, your local ICS, or even looking more broadly to community NGOs, not-for-profit patient advocacy organisations. They often have consumers as part of their organisations and can help you to get in touch with some of those harder to reach groups. And really take the time to learn what consumer engagement looks like at the start. And there's lots of resources available to help you engage with consumers, and I've included some links at the end too. Once you've got that background work done and the support of your key stakeholders, it's time to start assembling your project team, develop that project plan, and consider some governance structures. Some tips from experience is to be strategic. Each member brings unique skills, strengths, and perspectives. Pick people with skills that balance each other rather than agree with each other as well. That was something that came through in our group, was that sometimes you get a group of people that are from the same sort of background, and so they have very similar perspectives. So think about balancing out your team members, and also consider if there's outside experience or a specific skill set that would add value. For example, experts in project management, business or finance, researchers or academics, health economists, those implementation scientists, survivorship experts. Think about how you govern the project. Depending on its size, you might need a steering committee, advisory group, or a working group, or all of these. Make the roles really clear early on to help keep things on track and keep them updated. Keep the stakeholders updated, even those who are not directly involved day to day. Also, it can be tempting to want to decide on a solution right away, but avoid jumping in too early. Keeping an open mind in these early stages sparks creativity and helps the best ideas come out through teamwork. Up on the screen now is a quote from the clinical nurse consultant from the gynae oncology team at Peter Mac, and it emphasises the value of spending time in the planning stage to develop ideas and engage with stakeholders. When they set up their nurse-led clinic, they sort of reflected back about the significant planning needed at the start and how their stakeholders, the key roles that they played in the design and implementation, as well as sharing the workload, because it is a lot, and so you need to get people's help along the way. Engaging stakeholders early can also help to identify any barriers and enablers, address potential challenges, and improve the chances of successful implementation. So now moving on from sort of the project planning phase, it's at the beginning, in the first steps, it's also really important to consider who will actually deliver the clinic, what their scope will be, what training's needed, ongoing support and professional development. Nurse-led clinics can be delivered by a range of different nurses with different expertise or seniority. For example, clinical nurse specialists, nurse consultants or nurse practitioners are some of the types of nurses that deliver nurse-led clinics. And each of these has an associated scope of practice, as well as the regulatory and legislation according to those roles that needs to be considered when you're thinking about who's actually going to be delivering the care and what their scope is going to be. The scope of the nurses should be developed collaboratively too. So you would want to have some nursing representation there, different levels as well, potentially your nurse executive, a nurse executive within your organisation, and the medical teams too. You might need to think about scope of practice relating to medication management, ordering, investigations, referrals to allied health or specialists. And if you're thinking that you might need to make an extension to their scope of practice, then you're going to need the nursing executive involved there because they'll need to approve any extensions of scope, or if you've got an organisational equivalent, if you don't have a nurse exec but there'll be a nursing council within your organisation that will need to sign off on that. Also, thinking about capability and training, a recent paper by Associate Professor Gemma McCurleen will be really helpful to review when you're considering staff scope, capabilities and training for your clinic. The paper outlines the capabilities of cancer nurses in providing quality survivorship care according to the EdCAM framework of all, many, some and few nurses. It lists each of the domains of quality survivorship care and how each sort of nursing group delivers the various components, which can be really helpful when you're looking for sort of specific capabilities and scope descriptions. It can also be really helpful to look at other opportunities for upskilling and also professional development of your nurses who are going to be involved. The nurses who are delivering the clinic will already have an advanced knowledge base and skill set in their area of expertise. However, upskilling in cancer survivorship is also recommended, and the nurses might actually need some additional training in survivorship to give them the skills and knowledge in that area to complement their sort of area of specialty. The ACSC has got a free cancer survivorship introductory course available on EverQ for all health professionals, and it provides a really great foundation in survivorship and is recommended for all nurses or health professionals involved in delivering survivorship clinics. And I'll just make a note that we're in the process of updating these modules at the moment, and at the end of the year they'll actually be housed on a new platform, which we will confirm once it has been decided. But for the moment, they are on EverQ. And then also the ACSC has other ongoing opportunities for professional development and education in survivorship and training. We have regular education events for health professionals, including webinars, community of practice and research forums, as well as a clinical placement program in cancer survivorship, which is currently in its 5th iteration. Finally, while we're thinking about staffing, it's also worth considering about the ongoing support for the nurses or health professionals involved in delivering this clinic. And this isn't something that we found in the scoping of the resources when we were pulling together the guideline. It was actually came through from the nurses who we spoke to who deliver these clinics. And you know, they really highlighted that due to the nature of the content that's discussed in a survivorship consultation, there are some potential impacts to the staff, and staff need to be aware of these and be proactive in setting up support structures to ensure a safe work environment and that staff are supported adequately in delivering this work. Some of the ideas that they had were scheduling regular time to discuss patient care and debrief, even when the clinic is going smoothly, not overbooking clinics and allowing a short break in between appointments, giving yourself time to actually write your notes and do all the referrals, sharing the clinic load and having more than one nurse able to deliver the clinic, as well as if there are opportunities for clinical supervision or engaging with a mentor with experience in survivorship consultations. These are some other ways that you can sort of build in systems that support staff to deliver these interventions and this care over time. And just to sort of highlight this, our nurse practitioner in myeloma, who I work with, sort of articulated how they outlined how they sort of supported staff during the early stages of implementing the survivorship clinic. And it was very simple and practical approach, a short meeting every 1 to 2 weeks without an agenda, just to connect, debrief and raise any questions or concerns. And this discussion and opportunity in the diaries, it didn't always go ahead, but it was there so that if one got missed, it wasn't too long until the next one. It really gave that dedicated time to providing peer-to-peer support as well as learning along the way, because there's a lot going on and there's stuff that comes up, and it's really important to have those regular touch points. Another Another aspect to consider in the planning period, away from sort of the project side, management side of things and the staffing, is also how are you going to evaluate the clinic? And a lot of people leave this till later on, but it really is best if you give this some thought and some planning and embed data collection from the start, as even a well-designed clinic that is delivering great care to patients and making a real difference can really struggle to demonstrate that impact and value without any clearly defined measures. Your evaluation plan should be co-developed with your key stakeholders so that it includes a range of perspectives and relevant, meaningful measures. So rather, sort of the steps going through developing your evaluation plan, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it really, especially if you're trying to do this within very limited resources, really needs to be quite, it doesn't have to cover everything, because you could evaluate everything and that could be your complete job, but that's not usually how it works in practice. And so really focusing on what do you need to know, whose perspective matters, and what's really important to measure, because as I say, you can't measure everything. Then think about the timing. When would you like to collect the data? And, is there data that you want to gather during implementation so that you can track your progress and the processes that you're developing? As well as what data do you need over time, long term, to assess the outcomes and to track your key performance indicators? Oh, I've lost my mouse. Then have a think about your methods. What data will be collected, how and by whom? You might like to include quantitative and qualitative data to get different sort of data sets, but also really it can be really helpful to think about what data is already being collected by your team. And that might be existing data sets, or it might be PROMs or PREMs, those patient-reported outcome measures or patient-reported experience measures that your service is already using that you can kind of use for and build into your evaluation plan. Have a look at the Quality Survivorship Care Framework and its template, as this can help you to put together your evaluation plan. And then and have a chat with your ethics and your quality teams, because they can help you to decide whether your evaluation is best suited for a research study, audit or service evaluation, and whether you need an ethics approval, because it's not always needed. They can also give you some tools and templates to help. And then think about your reporting and aligning your evaluation and your reporting plan together. Your organisation will have governance and reporting requirements, so you can have a think about these when you're developing it, and then make sure that your reports are tailored to your audience and have got the data's presented clearly and some context too. And make sure it's meaningful. So, if the clinic isn't meeting its goals, the data is showing that it's not working as you had hoped it to be, then use that to identify why and work with your team to refine your processes and systems. So I probably can't go over this. I'll just wrap up here. So I hope that this session, although I've gone a little bit slower and not covered the last few slides in as much detail as I was hoping, I hope that it's given you some considerations to think about in the planning stage. It's setting up a nurse-led clinic is a significant undertaking, and there's lots of things to consider, and you'll get the best results from a team-based approach and working with your stakeholders. Don't feel like you have to have everything perfect before you start. Start small and build gradually. Flexibility is really important. Be prepared to adapt as real-world insights emerge and needs evolve over time. Some things need to are only apparent as you get going. And finally, the implementing a nurse-led survivorship clinical guideline is designed to support you. It's your central resource. It's evidence-based, clearly structured, and designed to be used across a range of healthcare settings, whether you're starting out or you're building on an existing model. Everything's there in one place, and it's not about ticking every box on day one. It's about building a strong foundation, and so that you build something that is meeting the needs of your patients and health service, and you're having a good time along the way. So thank you. I've got some resources. Please reach out if you would like a copy of the slides. I've also passed them on to the VICS team, so they might